Hello, welcome to Expo North's second session on building a sustainable business. Today we hear from three inspiring female founders of textile companies who are all passionate about sustainability, and this comes through in their stories. So firstly, we have Jessica Giannetti from Crewback, based in the Highlands, who, inspired by the images from marine life, has created a range of textile products. And you can listen to and hear all her exciting news about what she's planning to do in the future as well. Following that, we have Claire Campbell from Prickly Thistle, who in 4 years has set up and launched an amazing mill, again in the Highlands, passionate about tartan and all things sustainable too. So lots to hear from Claire from Prickly Thistle. And lastly, but not least, we have Izzy Erickson from Apparel Exchange. Now, Izzy has created a model for extending the life of clothing, particularly for school kids, and has set up Apparel Exchange in Glasgow. So without any further ado, I would like to start with Jessica, and Jessica will tell her story. Thanks very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica, and I'm the founder of Crewback. I started Crewback in 2013 after studying marine science. We are based at the Scottish Association for Marine Science, and we create beautiful textiles inspired by marine science and the ocean. So we pair our designs and our scarves with ocean literacy, and we hope to inspire everyone and share the unseen beauty of our planet.
So where did the idea come from for this? What inspired you to set this up?
Everything, okay, so all started when I was a student. I was looking down the microscope. I was working with one of the scientists, and I was looking at beautiful phytoplankton, and I was in awe. And every day when I had to work on different projects and sampling in Logetif and looking on the microscope or seeing samples taken from the ocean, I realized that most people will never see these beautiful images and see how big and compelling our oceans are. And then I started to have that desire to share that with other people. But in my head, I was going to be a scientist, so it was just an idea. Then I started to have dreams. I went to bed, I tried to sleep, and I had dreams about designs, and I had dreams about sharing these images, and then became more and more. And then I realized that I had to do something about it. And then after I finished my studies, I decided to go for it and try to share this unseen aspect of the ocean with other people. And yeah, it was a process, and then I had a lot of support, so I was at the right timing as well. But yeah,
perfect. The timing is often everything with these ideas as well. So yes. What would you say about your business is sustainable? What are the key sustainable goals that you have?
Well, for us, sustainability, it has been more like a journey. When we started, the key aspect of our business was the story and the designs. That by sharing images of science and sharing the unseen beauty of the planet, people will know and learn more about the ocean and about our planet, and feel a deeper connection with nature. And that also, with the knowledge that we pair with the designs, people would be also empowered to take positive actions in their daily lives. But then we have seen an evolution, of course, from talking the talk to also walking the walk. And we are in a process of updating our production processes, using base fabrics that are certified sustainable. At the moment, we are preparing for next year, where we created a table of the type of fabrics that we need to update. And we focused in the past always on natural fibers, and we started also using recycled plastic on a very small scale. So for us, diversifying resources, not focusing on one material only, but trying to use a wider range of materials like silks and cashmere and modal, and also recycled plastic. And then next year, we are jumping into using organic silk, for example. We just printed samples for the climate change collection, which is entirely printed on organic silk. And it's just trying to explore how we use the offcuts. We created notebooks with our offcuts and try to use, we don't waste anything, so we keep all the waste in boxes and then think about how we can use it later on. And I think now that sustainability is not a luxury and it's not about also greenwashing, but I think it's about a process where you try to evolve and get better every day. And we all have the responsibility. So it's not even for marketing. I think every business now have to use it as a core part of their businesses. And for us, sustainability is the aspect of inspiring, creating that aesthetics that is unseen, that people see the kind of patterns that come from nature that are well beyond, whales and dolphins and a nice seashell or a flower, because most people already know that. What we're trying to show is the kind of aesthetics and patterns that have never been seen before, and then pairing that with knowledge, environmental education, and pairing that also with how we use materials and sustainable materials and processes, working with factories, getting to know them well, understanding how they use energy and how they treat their employees, and building those long-term relationships as well. So it's a long-encompassing project, and every year we are trying to get better at it.
Oh, perfect. I mean, it certainly sounds all-encompassing what you're doing within. How are you finding it? How easy is it to source sustainable materials to print on? Because that's one of the issues. And you mentioned organic silk, which sounds great. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I have to say that this year, after for the last 3 months, I have seen a change in manufacturers. We work with UK-based manufacturers, but also Italy-based. In Italy, they started a year or two ago to incorporate more sustainable fabrics and base materials into the offering. But I've seen an overhaul in the UK manufacturers as well, which is great, because if you want to have a Scottish-made product or a UK-made product, you are able now to, but it's not easy. Also because we are a small business, so it's for us we produce small quantities. So sometimes it's about having a friendship with your manufacturer where they see the potential for the future and they try to source the best fabrics or work with you, knowing that it has potential to growth in the future. And it's building those relationships and sampling, doing lots of sampling, trying to understand certifications. It's also about dialoguing with the manufacturers, because they're very busy. But if you ask about the base fabrics, the certifications, get some samples, and we are trying to build a library here, so where we have all kinds of fabrics that we think can be sustainable for various reasons. So it's not like a one solution for all, because sometimes you think about why is natural. Some vegan brands use plastic-based materials, for example, and they consider themselves sustainable. So I think it's about, for us, picking our points where we think these are our pain points, this is where we have to improve, and we're building a library that it can work for us, where we can then have an argument that is valid for us and for our customers. This is why we consider this material sustainable, and this is why we try to diversify, and this is why and having that library also helps you maintain creativity, which creativity is so important as well. So combining creativity with innovation and combining with collaborating with manufacturers, we collaborate with the scientists, and it's that collaboration where we have these new ideas and we can then get better.
That's great. And certainly collaboration is so important, as you say. I was just wondering what sort of support you've had to help you with the innovation on this as you developed.
Well, I think Crewback is, for me, Crewback, people say, I always say we at the moment. I'm just, of course, I'm the only person here every day, but it's always a team. And I've had so many mentors. I've received support from organizations in Scotland as well. I think having mentor is the most important aspect of anyone starting a business, trying to fill the knowledge gaps and learn and take time to develop a good business plan. And for us, building the relationships with the scientists. So every collection that we create is a collaboration, is a theme about the environment. And the specific themes has a unique team of collaborators where we work with the scientists and we work with other people to bring that story forward. I create the designs and I try to edit the stories, but the business in itself needs so much. You have to work on, for example, on bookkeeping, on marketing. You have to develop a business plan. You have to think about your trade channels. It's impossible to be good at everything. And so starting up for me is now building a team. So my dream is to build a team and foster innovation through development of materials. So at the moment, we started a new project, which is called the Ocean Futures Lab. And here we are trying also to see how we can, because at the moment we merge marine science and art to create designs. And now we're thinking, how can we do the same, merging marine science and art to create new materials, to develop innovations in-house and not just work with other manufacturers. So we are very excited because we are now trying to develop a new dye based on algae. We're working with scientists at the Scottish Association for Marine Science, and we're testing algae-based dyes on fabric, and we're also trying to develop an alternative for embellishment products based on waste from algae. And I think it's taking innovation to projects and to the next level and focusing on small projects and see if they work out.
Excellent. Oh, it sounds very exciting. So are there any other plans for the future that you'd like to share?
Well, yes, we are. I have some samples here because we have, until now, we have created our printed scarves, which show all kinds of colors from the ocean. You can see the microscopy here. You can see the details in some of them that they are come from microscopy images. But we are now starting developing the hoods, like snoots for outdoor gear. So if you go to the hills, this is made of, instead of silk, we made this with recycled plastic, and we're launching them soon. And we are collaborating with the Shetland Textile Unit. We got funding from Interface, and we are develop a range of knitwear, of throws and scarf with merino wool, and they're all knitted here in Scotland. So this is our first completely made in Scotland product. And it's a modular system, and we will have designs based from algae and other organisms from the ocean. And now in November, we are launching for COP26 a collection about climate change. And this is our first collection that we work with different institutions at the same time. So we are collaborating with the Scottish Association for Marine Science, Edinburgh University, Newcastle University, and British Antarctic Survey. And we are compiling a series of stories about climate change that are very specific. For example, about the role of climate change and coral reefs, or climate change and fjords in the Arctic. And we created a series of designs to share those stories, and we are creating a book about that. So where scientists tell the stories about their designs, and then the scarf become the canvas. And we're launching that at Dynamic Earth in November.
Fantastic. We'll look forward to seeing those. That sounds really good.
Thank you.
Good. And then in terms of, for anybody else out there as maybe sitting at home with an idea or a business that's already started working on something new, obviously you've been through that journey, and you talk about it as a journey. What sort of advice would you give anyone who's got an idea and wants to follow this through?
Well, I would say, very important, you have to be really passionate about it, because when you start a business, you idealize everything. You think it's going to be great and you're going to spend time designing and promoting your work. But at the end, you have to do many other activities. You have to wear many hats, and it will get harder than you think. So having passion, also having a plan. Learn from other people's mistakes. Ask other business owners when they started. Also, discuss your idea with others. I know that many designers and artists are afraid of being copied. I had some issues in the past, but at the end, what you create is very unique. If you are open and you share with others, you probably get more feedback and more support than anyone will try to copy you. And I think talking to a lot of people is very important, but always maintain faith in what you think is right for you. Believe in your idea and make a good plan, have a business plan, and sort the finances as soon as possible. because managing your cash flow is going to be so important. Managing your cash flow and then creating a mini version of what is that you want to launch, and then launch it. Don't wait until it's perfect, but engage with people and develop as you go.
That sounds like excellent advice because, as you know yourself, you set off with one idea and one customer targeted in mind, but often that changes as the product evolves and also as you get feedback from customers and you see other opportunities as well.
Absolutely. I think it is also very important to understand your market, your price points, where are you selling at, which people will reach your product, who is your end user, and if you are wholesaling, who is the decision maker, who is going to buy your product, because it's a very different when you sell to other retailers when you sell online or when you sell in your own shop. So you have to understand the journey from creating a product to the end user and have a path for every channel that you trade, and also having mentors, having people that champion you, but that are also very successful, kind, and that have empathy, because then they will help you and they will advise you and they will take you to the next level. And also try to sleep as much as you can when you can.
Sleep definitely required. If you can get a good night's sleep, you can handle anything.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you, Jessica. That's really great to hear how you're doing. Where actually, just before I finish, where would we see your products? Obviously, you're selling online. Are you mostly selling in the UK? Where would customers see your products?
Well, we are selling online on our website at www.crewback.co.uk. But you can also, we are building a showroom here in the studio. People can come and visit us in the studio. And we are at the moment discussing with some retailers. I can't share at the moment, but we hope by next year to have a selection of retailers in the UK. But we sell through the website to Canada, the US, to Italy, Australia. We ship to different countries. So we are available, but from Scotland to the world.
Excellent. That's what it's all about. That's great. Thank you, Jessica. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Lovely talking to you.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm delighted today to be here with Claire from Prickly Thistle at her mill in the Black Isle, and we're talking sustainable businesses. So it's great we're actually standing apart, but we can do this. So I'm going to start by asking Claire to explain what is Prickly Thistle and to tell us about her business.
Yeah, so Prickly Thistle, well, what it started out to be, nearly 5 years ago, where we are today, are very, very similar, but very, very different. But at the centre of everything that we are and what we're really passionate about is the interpretation and the application of tartan design in textiles. So for us, it's, part of our narrative in the very beginning was about bringing back this amazing craft to the Highland region, but also doing it in a way that was very relevant and disruptive to the future. And for us, it was being that kind of real, relatable brand in the century that we're in. So we very much kind of embody the history and sort of cultural association with tartan in the Highlands. But how do we make that a really relevant fabric for the fabric of the planet going forward? And I think, for us, it's been a massive learning curve. As we were talking earlier today, Joan, I did not know any of this before I started, but I hope that makes us, super agile and super sort of real about what we're doing, because there is no grand master plan, but we're really passionate about what we do, but we want it to be really, important and right for the future. So, this whole piece today on sustainability, I think not only is that what the future deserves, it's kind of what we did in the past, and we've been reading about that for the last goodness knows how many years, and the methods and the processes that we do we're all so highly sustainable. So we're excited to be a company that really believed in this kind of concept of bringing it back, but actually it's turned out to be super sustainable as well. So that's a gift from the ancestors for maybe doing the right thing.
Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting is you're not a weaver.
No.
Your training was in accountancy, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the kind of Yeah, so bringing us and building a sustainable business, I don't think there is a roadmap. You know, I think we've all kind of been inspired or influenced, or we've educated ourselves in, you know, formulas, models, methods, and what have you. But I think, you know, the moment we're living in now, 2021, COP26, you know, 10 years, climate change is massive, but it's always been there. But I didn't know this 5-10 years ago. This has been talked about for a long time, and it's only really kind of hit me really in this last 3 to 4 years.
So I guess what was it behind, what made you start this business? Because, you know, you're not trained, but you wanted to make cloth.
Yes, you were saying, yeah.
You've built a mill, which is fantastic, in an area where there isn't a mill right now. So
yeah,
all of those things.
No, that's right. I forget now. See, I forget the question and I forget myself what I've done. It's been crazy 3 years, but yeah, not trained in the slightest, but super passionate about it. And I think, yeah, that's where I was going back to in terms of building a sustainable business model. And for us as well, is actually, I think, passion and commitment to your vision and having that dogged determination to not compromise on that. Mm-hmm. You know, the easiest thing always is to compromise. There'll be so many challenges that hit you that, you know, you kind of like, well, that would be easier. And it's difficult decisions to make sometimes when you're building, I think, a really sustainable business, because it is so hard. Because the world that we live in and society and the economics and the, you know, consumption, we've kind of, all of us as society, and myself included, before, you know, doing what I do, I had no idea how anything was made. I had no idea what was involved. I'm an accountant. You know, I used to understand accounting for labour and accounting for costs and accounting for markup and all these things. And I worked and you know, represented different companies and things like that, but I had no idea what was really involved and how many hours it goes into make something. So yeah, so to build a sustainable business by doing the right thing, I don't think people are, you cannot do that cheap. You know, you cannot do that, and you know, and so that's a massive piece. But yeah, so yeah, not really having a clue in terms of how to do it, but knowing we wanted to do the right thing, bring back the weaving, but do it in a really kind, fair way, which happens to be the way things should be going forward, whether it's a sustainability or a climate banner above it. It was just do the right thing, Claire, and that's what we wanted to do. So, but yeah, with the not knowing, I think it's been our greatest asset. Our inexperience is, you know, it's been our greatest asset. I think it's allowed us to push the boundaries. It's allowed us to maybe see things with fresh eyes. And I think, you know, again, going back around to that sustainability piece, is that we can dissect things in a very simple form. You know, you can see the woods for the trees sometimes, and I suppose that's, you know, my training from before as an auditor, the fresh eyes of coming in and seeing something for the first time. It really does, you know, it works. So I think that's really been quite good for all of us, and that's how we continue to take people and welcome them to the team, is that we're looking for people with that, you know, never give up for anything attitude. The fact that they may have never done that job before doesn't matter. So it's about, yeah, so that's, hopefully that keeps that energy and that sight fresh inside the company, that we're always just coming in with this inexperience as our greatest asset.
So you, if I get the dates right, you started in 2017.
Yep.
Through a crowdfunding campaign, was one of the initial to raise money, but also you now have got 14 staff, which is fantastic.
Yeah, 14. So yeah, so that's over 4 years, coming up 4 years. So yeah, 14 people. Yeah, crowdfunding. You know, again, sort of falling back into my accountancy background. You know, pre all of this. And obviously, you know, fabrics in particular being the second most polluting industry in the world. And I think where we are now with the biggest threat to humanity with climate change, I think people are starting to really sort of connect and understand that. But when I was looking to bring back textile manufacturing to the Highland region, something that's iconic for Scotland, to complement and contribute to the existing industry, I got to know everyone in the textiles industry just about, who had mills, the most amazing characters, who had worked really hard to survive. So something that's so iconic to Scotland, I was shocked at how small it was. So for me, it was really important to bring it back, you know, to come in and not displace, but complement. And yeah, so to get money for that, when, you know, banks traditionally or venture capitalists or angels would look at, well, actually every mill in the last 20 years is just about most of them are bankrupt or they closed or on its knees, and you're buying old equipment. You can't get asset finance in a 100-year-old loom. Now I think they're probably hugely desirable and very valuable, but back then there was to leverage finance into something that actually, again, and we were having this conversation today, I think, Joan, where people were just so conditioned to measure on how quick was that return on investment, regardless of the ethical, environmental compromises. It was about actually, how do I get that money back? How secure is my money? Not, is this the right thing to do? That was never, a discussion point. So we took to crowdfunding, failed first time round, and for some reason went back and did it again, but came at it with a plan B. But that's life. Life's a plan B. And here we are, 14 people, which, it feels good to have created those jobs because this just didn't exist in this area. So it feels really nice to be able to take this back and get this, century-old pieces of equipment that were built to last. They're symbolic of where we need to go. This disposable, wasteful society that we've become, and everything being just cheap and disregarded. And we need to invest. We need to pay more. We need to, look at the quality. We need to know where it was made, who made it, what it was made of. My slogan of the moment is don't know, don't buy. Just don't go there. So for us, we're super proud that we've created these jobs, and we're making things in such a human way. No computers. For us it was, I've seen and witnessed a little bit of where it was all about trying to get technology in and robotics in to kind of reduce the biggest item on the P&L, cost of people. How do we get robots on? Because we'll give value added jobs to the people. Well, no, these people were never replaced. So for me, it was like, we're anti all of that. We want to show how we can invest in people, and people have been paid a fair wage to make beautiful things that actually we will pay more for and we will have less of, but we will love more and we'll actually feel better about ourselves. And this is the thing. So
and a lot of your product making is about no waste within it, and you utilise all the materials, and that's a big part of the message. In terms of sustainability, what would you say the key things are in terms of within your business? What are the key things that have made that difference for you, that you can hand on heart say, we know we're a sustainable business because we do this and this?
I mean, we've still got a massive way to go. The Scottish supply chain, in the sense of having all of that raw materials, be it plant or animal fibres, to the varying qualities that, just meet today's way of life, are not there. So there's massive amounts of work to be done on that, and we've been working on that since the very first year, working with academics and things behind the scenes on research and development for plant and animal fibres, and looking at natural dyes again. So we want to basically buy everything or use the materials as close to home. Also, textiles recycling, another massive area. But for us, I mean, we compost. We have very, very few yarn winding waste from the way we weave, because it's old looms, shuttle looms. We're not creating waste tapes automatically. We've got very little in proportion that comes off, so they all go into composter at the moment. For us, we're producing fabrics in small batch ways. You can't be mass producing and be sustainable. We see some of these high street brands, we talked about their sustainability mission, but no, you're still producing more than we need. There's just ridiculous amounts of garments produced. So then it's actually looking at the label. So one is, we're artisan producer. We don't produce masses of anything, but it's all 100% natural materials. So these are all biodegradables. 60% plus of fabrics contain oil, acrylic, polyester, highly flammable on a label. That's a sign. I didn't know this 5 years ago. I just bought based on the price tag. I never looked at the inside label. So for us, we're super proud that we are 100% embracing and respecting natural materials in everything, through to packaging, so that can go back in to the land and not cause, massive environmental damage. The oil, these things will last for hundreds of years sitting in landfill. An oil-based t-shirt, a polyester t-shirt, an acrylic wool jumper, these types of things. So we 100% champion natural materials. And then, in terms of other sort of pieces that we're doing, for us, it's really important that we kind of socially, acknowledge our responsibility. So for us as a company, we're not just constantly thinking, how do we sell this and how do we sell that? We really want to inspire and inform people, because as we're learning, none of us really thought this 5 years ago, and people have worked here in the last year or two and their eyes have been opened, and it's just, we've all of a sudden realised. But it's sharing that on social media, and it's being, when you know you can't unknow, so it's being brave enough to speak in certain situations. So I have become a bit of an activist in certain areas, whether it's I'm speaking to somebody who's involved in the government, whether I'm speaking to an agency involved in the government. On social media, we're sharing these things in a kind, respectful way, and social, through our diary entries, through we put on our website. We spent a lot, we dedicate a lot of time to doing our Repeal It campaign in the summer, so people can understand a little bit more. So I think for us, we're a tiny little company. We don't just think, well, all we need to do is focusing on how do we sell. Actually, we do what we need, we sell what we need to exist, but we don't exist to sell. And I think for us, what I'm really proud of is that it's that messaging. So as we're learning, that's how we learned. And if we can help other people just think about that, from the furniture they buy, the food they buy, it's not just buy from Prickly Thistle, it's just that mindset. And all of a sudden, when you start thinking that way, you feel so good about yourself. So yes, I think from a sustainability perspective, I think we're really proud of that, as well as using natural materials, as well as working, if the supply chain partner exists in Scotland, that's it. We go there. We don't look for a cheaper alternative. We don't import from overseas. If they exist in Scotland, that's it. Because tartan, to me, the integrity of that has got to be iconically Scottish as much as possible, because that's the cultural appreciation. I should not be culturally appropriating cloth of my own country. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think what's become more important now is actually how we share and inspire. We've got different ideas going forward on different kind of workshops and things we want to do. So I think with all of the last year, it's knowing all of these things and doing all these things, but it's able to actually kind of be part of that messaging, because it's, we don't have the time to kind of just work it out and wait for things to change massively. We do need to kind of hopefully get people thinking sooner rather than later.
And I think that is one of the issues we talked about earlier, was the supply chain, because we all need different ingredients to go into our products, and it's having trusting the supplier, knowing where it's made, knowing that it's the person who's made it is fairly paid. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges in developing a sustainable product, is how you source those ingredients that you pull together to make your product.
The traceability, absolutely. I mean, we've got a whole section on our website called Sustainable Rebels. So in there, we've got our supply chain map. So on there, you can click on, you can see where we source from our feather pads from a feather company, but we have conversations, and pretty much all of them I've visited, so we understand their supply chain, we understand, their awareness in terms of their environmental implications. So all of this we put on our website to be as transparent as possible, and also just little stories about how we've been there. So we talked about Schofields as well earlier today, how we've been down there, met the whole team there, how they operate with, SEPA being obviously a power for kind of authority for good in controlling our waterways. And we have that in this country, whereas if you have these types of processes happening in other countries where they don't have a SEPA equivalent, then you're going to see this pollution into local rivers that are, affecting drinking water for the village. So, but yeah, supply chain management or supply chain transparency is really important. But there's always digging through that, because we know ultimately we're weaving with some fibres that are imported. So we're always constantly, readdressing that. It's not just doing that once when the supplier says, yes, absolutely, it's responsibly, sourced wool. It's like, okay, what else can you show us? What can, so we've got somebody within the team dedicated to that sustainability piece. And we've also actually, gosh, it feels like it's been forever, on our last piece of B Corp verification. So we'll be the very first Scottish textiles company to be B Corp certified, which is amazing. Absolutely for us.
Brilliant, and especially after only the length of time you've been in business, that's just brilliant.
Yeah,
and it's such an accolade to be B Corp approved.
So we'll be the first Scottish textile, and we started this in 2019. So it was pretty much the year after we opened, we recognised this was a really important thing. Wasn't to do with the pandemic, wasn't to do with the big sort of run up to COP26. We knew from within a year of being here we needed to be part of this, where we put people and planet first. But yeah, I think we might be the second highest scored in Scotland as well. There's only about 15 people who actually have B Corp status, 15 companies that have B Corp status. but we'll be the second highest, and this is us just going in for our first year. So no, and it covers all the things that we're talking about. How do, they measure your sustainability? They want evidence of that. So it's one of those ones that you don't just pay a fee to, maybe, per se. There's lots of things out there. They genuinely check everything out. So we're really pleased that we'll be the first Scottish textiles company to be B Corp certified.
Amazing. Well done. Very well done. Now, going back to the beginning and the crazy journey you've been on, the roller coaster.
I'm still on it, Joan.
I know, it's still going.
It's what happens to you when you do sustainable business, guys. You're going to go crazy for a little while.
Absolutely. So I guess what are your plans for your future? How do you see this evolving? Do you see employing more people, making other products, or is that still evolving?
I think, evolving. I think what's definitely going to be kind of like the North Star is purpose and values and what we won't compromise on. So quite often knowing what you're not exactly. So I think for us and for the company, Prickly Thistle, for as long as I'm doing it, I think that's the North Star. And what does that mean? Product, service, society, who knows? But that's the main thing. But I think certainly, fabrics are such a big part of our life, and it's I think people forget, fabrics is not just about fashion. It's about what you sleep in. It's about what you're driving in that day, or the seat you're sitting in. It's fabrics in the home. It's hospitals. I mean, fabric is massive, and I think, and it always will be. So I think there's a huge amount to be done there, and it's an area that I've become so fascinated with, and I'm scratching the surface of my learnings because I'm not trained in the slightest to do this.
You've learned a lot.
But maybe my audit experience is helping a little bit, where I can verify and check things out. But I think that whole narrative, or that, for me, is just as a person being here for this short space of time, is like, what's my contribution to the fabric of the planet and the fabric of society? And it feels it's really hard work, but you cannot put a value on the sense of pride that you have in trying to do something that's just so important for other people and your own descendants and things. So I think for Prickly Thistle, it's, the fabric of the planet from the Highlands has to be tartan. So I think that's always going to be there. That's where we kind of came in and we put that flag in. That's what we did, and that's what we're about. But in the future, I don't know. I just feel like hopefully whoever's here with this company, that we honour the people and planet first, profit to go off and do more work and develop and grow. But that's all I can hope, and see what happens.
Very good. Well, we'll certainly be watching with interest as well. And I guess the last thing really is, what would you say to an aspiring innovator, somebody who's got an idea, who's in your shoes and maybe thinking of doing something, whether from home or within a company? What advice would you give them?
Gosh, it's advice. It's I mean, if you've got an itch, you have to scratch it, and I think the last thing, is whether you're doing sustainable business, in any decision making that you have, and you're sitting there in the fence, I think, is how would you feel if you didn't try? So, and what's the worst that could happen? These things flash it, so at the end of the day, if, when something is so compelling to you, you can't ignore it, then assess what's the worst that can happen. Priorities, obviously yourself, your family, your shelter, all that kind of stuff. But go, just scratch that itch. Life is so short, and that's why I took the leap that I did. You think, oh gosh, an accountant and a job for life and this, that, the next thing, and we're so lucky. But I just had to go and quit that and realise actually there was something more important that was far more fulfilling. My family at first were like, oh, Mum, really? My husband's like, really, Claire? But no, I think we as a family have all developed and learned, and we all feel far more fulfilled as a family because we appreciate what we have more now than we ever did. So, I think anyone who's got this idea, scratch it. What's the worst that can happen? And then, if you get obsessed like me about your passion, then just be prepared, and be prepared for having days when you don't feel okay. You're not alone. There will be days when it will be, oh my goodness, but that's okay, you're not alone. Because there's days when you have and you think, oh my word, is it me that can't cope with this? But that's, you know, so go for it. Be prepared for those days, but don't give yourself a hard time. That's perfectly normal. And just, keep going.
Keep going. Great. Well, you've done an amazing job over these last 4 years, and it's just been wonderful to hear the looms going and see the fabric and feel them and see some of the product too. So we're very well done.
Oh no, pleasure, Joan. Thank you for coming and getting to meet some of the team. Let's not forget to give a shout out to the amazing team that we were
very passionate.
Very, very lucky. None of us have trained in this, but no, I tell a lie. There's been a few, but it's
you got some great people there.
Yeah,
really
and that's
good.
what makes it so. No, thank you for coming. It's
Not
been
at
great
all.
to show you around after all this time, and we'll get you up more often.
Thanks, Joan. It's lovely to be here. So my name's Izzy Erickson. I'm the founder of Apparel Exchange. We're a community interest company, so we're kind of a social circular business based in Glasgow. We mainly focus on extending the lifetime of garments. So the best way to sort of reduce the environmental impact of clothing and footwear is by reusing it and repairing it. And that's what we do. So we mainly focus on children's clothing aged from about 4 through to about 15, 16. School uniform, casual wear, like I say, footwear and outer garments, we cover it all. And what we do is we take in donations of the clothing, we prepare it for reuse, so we quality check it, and we sell it through our shop or online. And we also provide packages, free packages to families who need some extra support. So we work with a number of agencies and charities and other social enterprises in Glasgow. So where there is a need within a family and they don't have enough clothing to get them into school, or they need some extra clothing for the weekends, then we provide packages, and that helps young people participate in life and kind of grow their confidence. So we do lots of things as a social circular business.
Oh, it's absolutely wonderful. I've been with you some years ago when you were talking about setting this up, and it is just fantastic to see that it's going and it's working. And I'm sure you get a lot of positive feedback about it.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I think one of the things that we've really noticed is that, you know, to engage people around climate change and the issues of environmental and social impact when we consume products and clothing, all it takes is really having a conversation with somebody, and that knowledge is really empowering. So, you know, through our city centre shop and through a lot of the communications that we do through our social media channels, we always look to sort of engage people in the issues that motivate us as a social business, and let them use that information to make some different choices. So we really want people to kind of consume less, but consume quality and consume in such a way where they think a bit harder about what they buy and how they use it and what they do at the end of its life. And excuse me, one of the other things that we do is we work with schools as well. So it's not just through the shop that we engage people. We also have kind of resources which are available to primary and secondary schools, which are all about teaching them about the clothing supply chain. And a lot of the resources that we have there are built and refer to other great resources available, whether that's, you know, Fashion Revolution or Repair What You Wear. So we work quite collaboratively with other organisations to kind of get those messages out.
Excellent. I mean, that's really important, is that education for the consumer, really, and getting them to think about extending the life of their products, everything that they buy, to pass on or to, you know, to make into something else, because that all helps reduce what's going to landfill ultimately, and what we need to be doing right now.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, ultimately, you know, people, I think, are a bit detached from the impacts of their consumption. I don't think people really understand it. A lot of people do, you know, when they make lots of great choices to kind of reduce that and think twice about what they buy. But I just don't think a lot of people really understand, because so much production and manufacturing is abroad. It's not here in Scotland or in the UK. So, you know, they don't really understand the impacts environmentally of pollution or water scarcity. So it's about bringing those concepts and bringing that reality alive, and hopefully people can start thinking harder about what they buy and how they buy it.
Very good. And so where did the idea come from? And obviously this is something that you're passionate about. So how did it all come about?
Yeah, I've got a couple of children, and have been involved in a very similar social enterprise when they were quite young. But really, when my daughter went to school, I sort of saw the opportunity to create a membership model. So rather than just kind of reuse, think more about, circular business models for the future. And a lot of people talk about having access to clothing rather than owning it. And we see a lot of really successful rental and lease or hire models for luxury garments and workwear. And there is some for baby wear, but what I felt was a missing opportunity or a gap in the market was having almost like a membership or a subscription model for young people who are at school, who are school age. And because of the nature of school uniform being quite generic, it's not a massive, if at all, representation of your individual style. It seemed like, creating this membership model around a product which was quite functional would make a lot of sense. And that ambition still is there, and we've been able to develop that over a couple of years. We've run a very small trial. We've actually developed a financial model earlier this year, which gives us some really important sort of price points. But we have to kind of sort of find the time and find the right time to sort of relaunch that and test it again. But we are up against these major challenges of buying new is just so cheap, that you can go into a lot of high street stores and into your supermarket and buy school uniform and other kids wear clothing and adult clothing for really such a low cost. In fact, a cost that's less, a lot of the time is less than what it costs us to collect, to prepare for reuse and to resell. And that's kind of one of the biggest challenges we have as a social circular business, is until our price point is truly competitive with buying new, things aren't going to change and consumer behavior isn't going to change. And it's not just clothing, Joan, there's lots, as you well know, there's lots of products on the market where, the more sustainable and environmentally and socially responsible products can't compete with the irresponsible products that are placed on the market.
Yeah, I think that is the challenge, is the education around consumers, but also how you compete on those price points. We were speaking earlier about in business, it's obviously easier to buy cheap and sell high, and that's what many businesses do. But it's not knowing what effectively, who's made it, what conditions were they made in, that person down the line that has been impacted most by this, and then by continually consuming and buying more of this, it just keeps that train running. So it's how we can educate the consumer to think differently.
Yeah, it's such a valid point, because actually, the whole market needs to be disrupted. But there is so much investment in the fashion industry with their current model. And, I sometimes think, oh my goodness, what's it actually going to take for them to change? And you see a lot of brands, moving into circular services and, trying to recycle their product to end of life. But fundamentally, they're high volume, low value products that are flowing very quickly through use phases and very quickly into the waste system as well. And that's where, how do you stop that? So it's going to take some really bold moves by politicians, not just here in Scotland and the UK, but around the world, to not just protect the people and the wages within that supply chain and make sure they're paid enough, but also that the environment is protected too. So then when it finally gets to the high street here in the UK and Scotland, you're actually paying a price. It covers decent wages. It ensures that there hasn't been lots of pollution and habitat destruction throughout that supply chain. And then that's when I think we'll start seeing changes happen. So the regulation needs to toughen up globally. The UK needs to consider Scope 3 emissions with all of its policy interventions. We need to be applying a carbon tax, a green tax, to all products that are consumed here in the UK, so that actually people understand the impact of what they're consuming. And that visibility should help But you could probably apply these principles to the electronics sector, and it's not just about textiles. I mean, it's applicable across all the products that we use. I mean, even food and drink,
Absolutely. And so in terms of the future for you and with what you're doing with our Apparel Exchange, how do you see that moving forward?
Thanks. So we are we're still pursuing the membership model, and as I said, there's a timing associated with that. So we have also invested in our online capacity. So obviously, with the pandemic really wiping out a lot of the high street and really shifting people's consumer choices, we've invested in a large kind of warehousing space in the city centre. We've got someone who's dedicated to our digital sales and our stock management systems, and they work with someone else on that. So we have kind of shifted to ensure that we can provide the online offer. So I think at the moment, those are kind of the key developments. We have been pursuing a new retail space, more localized in the community, because we were in the city centre and, we just don't have the footfall at that current location. So, with our community side to what we do, we still know that, and also our customer base with young people, we still know that kind of traditional shopping experience is quite good. Kids come in, they can try things on, it's a lot easier than maybe buying things over the internet, and then the kids not necessarily wanting to wear them. That's all a waste, and we all know that internet sales aren't always positive when it comes to returns. So we will still be kind of pursuing that side of things, but it's step by step and phase by phase.
Yeah, very good. Oh, well, you're doing a great job with it. Well done. And then finally, just to ask what sort of advice you might give to somebody who has an innovative idea or something that they want to follow around producing a sustainable product or a model that helps elongate the length. What sort of advice would you give?
I think the one thing I've learned is, I went into this with probably a collection of 5 things that I thought I was going to be doing and cracking on with all from the beginning. And it was just too much. So I think having focus on the service or the product that you're actually wanting to achieve really helps you just kind of use your energy and use your mind and use the time that you've got really, really effectively. I think I was spread too thin, trying to do too many different things at once. And I think also, though, I had to do, the one thing I would say is just check and balance and make sure that you're still aiming towards that goal, because I think what can happen is when you're developing ideas, it's not always a bad thing, but you can kind of be diverted off in a direction which is maybe not necessarily the right one or isn't necessarily the goal that you're aiming for. So always making sure that you've got good people around you, whether it's your board of directors or the entrepreneur that you're working with, making sure that you are questioning some of the decisions and some of the findings and the analysis that you do, so that you don't get too diverted into something which isn't really going to take you to the goal that you want. And then probably my 2 nuggets are probably the 2 things I wish I'd done a bit better over the years. So yeah, there's some real life learning.
Oh, well done. Well, no, I know you're doing a great job, so keep going with it. And thank you very much. Thanks for your time today, Izzy.
Thank you, Joan. Great to catch up.
Thank you very much to Claire, to Izzy and Jessica for sharing their stories, and hopefully you've all found that inspirational as well as informative. So we have our final session in this webinar next Friday at 11 o'clock on Friday, November the 5th. And here we'll hear from Jane Langley, who is the founder of Blue Patch, a not-for-profit organisation that is passionate about promoting and supporting sustainable businesses across the UK. And we'll learn quite a lot from Jane, so do join us for that. In addition, we're also talking to Izzy from Green Grow Foods, who has found a way to grow mushrooms from spent waste, and again has lots of experience within this sector. We also talked to Scott from Fox Water, who developed a new type of water filter. All of these we hope will be of benefit to you, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks very much. Bye.